What's up, epic gamers? I am back playing some more Sonic Adventure 2 because I know you all love these challenges. Last time we tried beating the game only using Sonic, and that video is up to like 30,000 views, so I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who watched that, and because that one did so well, I'm following it up with today's challenge where we're going to try to beat the entire game, this time only using Rouge the Bat. Unlike Shadow, who is basically just a nerfed version of Sonic, Rouge and Knuckles are pretty much the exact same except for the air necklace upgrade that Knuckles gets. However, that power up will not come into play here, so for the sake of this challenge, this could be done with either of them, but there are two very good reasons to pick Rouge over Knuckles, if you know what I mean. And the last thing before we get into it, as with all of my challenges, I do stream these here on YouTube and Twitch every week, so if you like this kind of stuff and you want to join the lives, be sure to subscribe to the channel. So we kick things off with City Escape. Rouge does not get a snowboard, so she has to run down the hills herself. She also cannot do tricks off the ramp or grind rails. However, climbing the walls still works, and in some cases we can even climb the invisible walls, which will come in handy later. We can also climb the rails, which doesn't really do anything, but it's kind of silly, so I wanted to show it off. These swinging bars also surprisingly work. Usually these cause non-speed characters to crash the game, but not only does it work, but for some reason it actually spawns in a snowboard on her feet, and then it gets stuck in the air when we let go. I have no idea why this happens, so feel free to leave your theories in the comments. We get to the end of the level where we hit our first roadblock. Rouge cannot roll under this wall to get to the truck chasing part of the level. We can climb the invisible wall, but there is a ceiling above us keeping us trapped in this area. So to get past this, we need to backtrack all the way back to the courtyard area and get out of bounds here where there is no ceiling, and then simply fly our way to the other side of this wall. Then we just gotta outrun the truck, which he can do no problem, and that completes City Escape. That brings us into the Bigfoot boss fight, which is no problem at all. Our glide attack works on him, so we just gotta fly into him a few times and then we beat him quick and easy. The next boss fight is normally where Tails would fight Eggman, but as we learned in the Sonic challenge that we did, the game will load in Knuckles instead of Eggman whenever we load this fight as Rouge. And it plays out exactly like it did last time. Knuckles is using Eggman's AI, so he doesn't actually attack us, he just kind of circles around us. So we beat up Knuckles real quick, and that brings us to Prison Lane. Before I get into it though, this is a good time to make a correction in my last video. We tried this as Sonic and we hit a roadblock here, and a commenter reached out to me and showed that we can actually do a super bounce on an invisible ledge to get up and over this door. This lets us get all the way to the end where we unfortunately do get stuck once again. This last room is full of enemies that we need to destroy to open the door, and we can kill all but one of them, either using magic hands or getting some of the robots to shoot the other ones. The last one is crouched in this corner and we have no way of destroying him. I do have a theory that with some luck we could probably use Omochao to get this guy, because if we spin dash fast enough we can fling him through the door and he will destroy enemies this way, but I tried it for hours and I could not get a successful attempt, so this level is still unfortunately unbeatable as Sonic. It still might be possible if we use that Omochao flinging method, but hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! But let's get back to Rouge. It looks like we can't even get out of the starting area since we're in a closed space and Rouge can't kill enemies on other sides of the door. But we can wedge ourselves between these boxes and the wall to clip out of bounds. From here, we need to do a vertical kick attack so that we get enough height to make it to the other side. Unfortunately, however, we don't get too far before the next door with yet another enemy behind it that we need to destroy, and this is where we get stuck. We can't simply climb the walls because for some reason these walls cannot be climbed. I thought that we can maybe clip out of bounds using these things here, and we do clip through a few times, but we get pushed down instead of forward, so it's of little help. There is also an Omochao nearby, but without spin dashing, Rouge can't get fast enough to fling him through the door. So at this point we are stuck, but I did a little bit of researching, and a speedrunner named Axel Thunder uploaded a video proving this level is possible. They use this camera to get past this door, and from there they do a bunch of out of bounds skips and shenanigans to get to the end. I tried for an hour, I could not replicate that first clip using the camera, not even once. So I don't know if maybe I'm using a different version of the game, or maybe my settings are different, or maybe it's just a skill issue on my part, but I simply could not do it myself. Normally I do prefer to complete challenges like these using my own gameplay, as I think it adds a lot of authenticity to the challenge, and also I'm stubborn, I don't like giving up on stuff like this, but because I tried for hours and made absolutely zero progress, We'll move on for now, but I'm gonna try this again one of these days because the thought of a Sonic Adventure 2 challenge that I can't beat myself will haunt me. And Axel Thunder, if you happen to see this video, I would absolutely love a tutorial on how you pulled off the difficult clips in this level. Up next is Metal Harbor. We don't have any issues crossing the large gaps. Rouge can simply fly across all of them. We can't roll under these towers, but we can glide after this dash pad and make it to the next part. There's one more tower to roll under, but we can simply jump around it and glide to the final area of the level, where we do run into a problem. Rouge can grab the bar to the missile, but when we reach the top, she gets frozen in place. To be honest, I'm surprised she makes it even this far because I was expecting the game just to crash, as it usually does in most cases whenever we try to perform a special animation with an unintended character. But regardless, this does stop us, so we need to find another way. If we glide from the top of this jump here, we can get on top of this tower and then glide over to the structure in the background. From here, we can glide to the final part of the level, and as long as we go over the bottom platforms, we won't trigger the 15-second countdown to launch the missile. From here, we make our way to the top of the missile, where if we pan the camera, we can actually see the downhill section that the missile would normally take us to. And luckily, Rouge can just glide over there without needing to use the missile. We can clip through the bottom of the tunnel, and from there, it's a quick sprint to the finish line, which makes this another level that we can complete as Rouge. The Sonic vs Shadow fight again loads Knuckles instead, and because he's using Shadow's AI, he again does not attack us, he just runs around. So we beat him quick and we move on to Green Forest. This level has several vines that Sonic would use to swing through the level, and just like the missile in Metal Harbor, these cause Rouge to freeze in place, so we're gonna have to avoid touching these. Luckily, these walls can still be climbed, so we can make it through pretty easy. This level doesn't give us too much trouble. There's lots of areas where we can climb up high and then glide past any part that involves a vine. There is actually one part though where the vine does work when we're diving down to this area. I don't know why this vine in particular works. I thought maybe it was because I took damage, but off camera I went back and tried it again without taking damage and it still worked, so I guess this one is just weird. At the end, we glide past the final vine, and the timing's a bit tricky here. We have to wait for these platforms to sink into the ground because we can't climb on them. But the first few platforms will sink all the way into the water, so we have to land on them as they sink and then jump and glide to the higher platforms to make it to the spraying and finish the level. Now, we could have just fly directly to the end from earlier in the level, but I want to try to avoid skipping the entire level just to make things a bit more interesting. Mission Street is once again just a pleasant stroll through the park. I don't really think any character would ever have trouble beating this level except for maybe Mechless Eggman. Honestly, this and Weapons Bed are the two easiest levels in the entire game for other characters besides Green Hill Zone. Green Hill Zone is actually the only level to my knowledge that can be beaten by every single character in the game. But as far as Mission Street's concerned, there's not too much interesting to talk about here. The level is possible, and if for some reason you want to watch the entire thing, you can check the description for a link to the full 6-hour livestream, but we'll move on to Hidden Base. Now, I accidentally picked Chaos instead of Rouge for this one, and chat demanded that I keep him, so we'll be doing this next one as him. He plays the same as Rouge, but he does move a little bit slower, but that doesn't make much of a difference here. What really makes this level difficult, however, is if we touch the sand, we don't just die, but we actually fall through, as there's no animation for treasure hunting characters in sand, because none of their levels ever have sand. So there's actually no death barriers here either. We'll fall forever into the void, and the only way out from here is to restart the entire level, so we essentially get no checkpoints for this one. We can't destroy the destructible walls on our own, but luckily our good friend Omochow is here to help us. It's a little finicky. When we throw him, he always goes to the side for some reason, probably trying to target the pots or something, but if we do it enough times, we can get the door broken. Not that it matters though, because we can also just fly around. The police will still launch us really high in the air just like they did for Sonic, which will come in handy later. This door here is pretty tricky because we need to get out of bounds to get around it and land on the opposite side, being super careful not to miss and fall into the sand. I almost choked my first attempt, but I was able to save it because I'm an epic gamer. And then we figured out that we could just adjust the camera if we grab the wall from the other side, so made it a little bit more difficult than I had to. And after just a few more easy climbs and glides, we make it to the end of this level, so Rouge can once again beat this level. Pyramid Cave is next, and this level gives us no issues as all the mechanics intended for Sonic will work for Rouge. She can flip the hourglasses and pick up objects, so none of the obstacles are going to stop us from progressing as normal. I thought that maybe she would struggle during the timed tunnel part since she isn't as fast as Sonic, but she's actually able to make it through here just fine so long as we don't get grabbed by any enemies. The only thing that might be impossible is this spring timer here. Since Rouge can't spin dash, she can't get to this door in time before it closes. I think with a few more tries, probably could have made it through this, but we can also just climb up and over, so it doesn't even matter. In fact, if we want to get really crazy, we can actually skip the entire level by flying out of bounds from the very start. We need to use a speedrunning trick called glide cancelling, where we interrupt our glide by quickly tapping the dive button and then starting a new glide as quick as possible. Normally when you glide, you'll gradually slow down, but by using glide cancelling and restarting the glide animation, we maintain that top speed and we're able to go all the way to the end of the stage. So that makes this level very much beatable. Sonic's egg golem is just as easy. We just gotta climb up the back and attack his weak spot. Nothing too crazy, but fun fact, if we fall into the sand and then go out of bounds, if we fall far enough, there's actually a ring down here, which does absolutely nothing for us, but you know, now you know it's there. Eternal Engine is next, and I am already getting flashbacks to the struggle I had beating this with Sonic. The first 99% of the level is easy enough, but we do hit the same roadblock as we did with Sonic, being this machine that we cannot break to open up the gold ring. I thought that Rouge would have an easier time with the out of bounds clip that we need to do as Sonic, since we don't have to super bounce to get up there, but these outside walls are actually not climbable, so we have to look for another way out. And while we were searching, we got jump scared by this absolutely creepypasta looking texture of Rouge's hands climbing from the opposite side of the wall. This is some like Freddy Fazbear level of spooky. We also got gifted 50 memberships, so I gotta give a huge shout out to Zaylin. That was absolutely insane. We have never had 50 gifted memberships at one time before. That was absolutely nuts. Honestly, Zaylin, appreciate that so much. You are a crazy person for doing that, but I appreciate it so much. So if you're watching this and you were wondering why you got gifted a membership, be sure to thank Zaylin and show off your new emotes in the comments below. And if you're interested in becoming a member yourself, it only costs 99 cents a month and you'll get all these cool emotes that you can use in the comments and during live streams. And not to show myself too hard here, but we are just one membership away from unlocking another emote slot, so just want to throw that out there. But let's get back to our challenge. We eventually did find a way to get out of bounds by diving in between this thing here and the wall. When we clip out of bounds, we need to make sure that we fall for a few seconds before gliding so we can avoid the death barrier. From there, we just glide on over to the back of the machine holding the gold ring, and just like we did with Sonic, we carefully inch our way back until we fall, then pull forward into the ring. So once again, Eternal Engine is beatable, and it was actually a lot easier than doing it with Sonic. What wasn't easy is our next level, Crazy Gadget. This one I knew was possible as I had done it before, but I wanted to do it again for the live stream. We hit an obstacle right at the beginning of the level with these pipes Rouge cannot get inside of. And even if we did find a way inside, the game would likely crash or soft lock as Rouge does not have a spin dash animation. So we have to get out of bounds, which is pretty easy. We can just climb up the invisible wall right out the start. The hard part is we need to get all the way to the end of the level because anywhere else will have more of these pipes or walls that we can't get past. And if that wasn't hard enough, the level has a gravity switching mechanic that Sonic normally uses. Rouge can't interact with the switches that invert the gravity, but that's not the issue. The real problem is because this mechanic exists, there are invisible death barriers on multiple sides of the level, not just beneath the stage like in most cases. So to recap, we gotta fly from start to finish all the way out of bounds, stay far enough away from the level so we don't get back in too early, while also navigating around invisible death barriers that are just all over the place. Oh, and we have to keep glide cancelling the entire time so we actually have enough speed to make it to the end of the level. So yeah, this one took a lot of attempts, but we eventually made it to the final part of the level. From here, it's easy. We just gotta get between these lasers, climb the wall to activate the switch, throw Omochao off into space to celebrate, and then we beat the level. The second Eggman fight is next, and this one's a little bit harder because not only does Knuckles have Eggman's upgraded health bar, but he actually does attack us this time. And there's no rings anywhere on this stage, so we do have to beat him without taking damage. What gets even harder is about halfway through, he'll start using special attacks. Thankfully, if we stand at the edge of the level, he can't get to us, so we need to attack him, then quickly get to the edge so that if he hits us with a time stop, we'll be safe. It was a bit tricky, but we do beat him and move on to the final stage of Hero's story. Final Rush is a very vertical level and we're going down, not up, so this level doesn't pose any challenge whatsoever. We simply glide over the rails through the level. There is one part where we do need to go upward, but she can just climb the wall. She's even fast enough to outrun the debris in the last part of the level. So yeah, Final Rush is pretty easy, but it's long since gliding is so slow compared to grinding. So we'll go ahead and move on to the final fight of Hero Story, which is normally a Sonic vs Shadow fight. Knuckles is actually faster than us here, which was weird, so we checked to see what would happen if we played as Knuckles versus Rouge instead, and this time Rouge was faster. So it just seems that the AI on this fight is always programmed just to run a little bit faster than us. But I never really noticed that during normal gameplay because normally we're spin dashing and stuff. What was really interesting is the teleporting mechanic, and all the attacks actually do work with these characters. After we attack him, Knuckles will use Chaos Control to teleport back, and if we get far enough from him, he'll use his special attack. So this fight just kind of works like normal. So we beat him and then move on to Dark Story. Iron Gate is another level that we could not beat as Sonic, and a viewer pointed out in the comments that yet again, Axel Thunder, like an absolute legend, found out how to get out of bounds. And guys, this looks insanely difficult. This is something for sure that I want to try to do myself at some point. But for now, I'm going to direct you guys to Axel Thunder's video to show that this is possible. Go check them out, drop a sub to their channel if you like Sonic Adventure speedruns, because they are just absolutely a legendary Sonic Adventure player. Thankfully, however, Rouge has a much easier time with this level. She can get out of bounds right at the start by grabbing the wall as we fall into the start, and from there we simply climb up and out and glide our way to the finish. We do need to stay out of bounds the entire time because like Sonic, Rouge cannot break down the doors, but thankfully flying to the end is pretty straightforward. We don't gotta dodge any invisible death barriers like in Crazy Gadget. The boss fight is also pretty easy because our glide works just like it did with the last one, so we beat him and we move on to Sand Ocean. Again, just like Sonic, Rouge cannot break down these bridges, but she can climb on top of them, which makes this level incredibly easy to simply fly over. We even have a nice visual guide in the background, as that pyramid over there is where the end of the level is. So we simply fly to the next pillar, climb up, and fly again to make it to the end of the level. I did go back to see if there's anything else interesting to show off, and the dash pad at the end sent us flying off the level and into the void, so yeah, that was kind of cool. But not as cool as Radical Highway. Man, I love this level. It is an absolute shame that Shadow only gets 4 levels in this game. And I am pretty excited that they just announced Sonic X Shadow Generations. Honestly, Shadow is such a cool character. I definitely want to see more of him, and not only are we getting a game, but we're getting the new movie coming out this year. I'm very excited for that. But enough fanboying about Shadow. This level as Rouge is pretty easy. We do have one part at the end where there's a pipe at the end of this tunnel. We can't roll under it, but we can just go back and fly around it. The final loop we do get stuck on if we try to run through it, and it's a scripted event, which means that if we jump off and touch the loop anywhere else, it'll teleport us back to the start of it. So we do have to fly past the entire thing, and then we beat Radical Highway. And that brings us to Lost Colony, which starts off immediately with a roadblock. This level has several of these sealed doors that Rouge cannot break, so we need to find a way around. We can easily climb up this wall and get out of bounds, but the problem is the room that the gold ring is in is a lot higher than the room that we spawn in, and the door to that room can also not be opened. We do have a way forward though. If we glide all the way to this huge tower, we can clip back in bounds and then climb all the way up. From here, we need to grab this side of the ledge and climb through the wall. Trying to jump up on that ledge is tricky because if we don't hit just the right spot, Rouge will simply climb up, which is not what we want. I found the most consistent way of setting this up is to grab the front ledge instead, since she won't climb up that one. From here, we just gotta jump and move around the corner, and with some good timing, we can grab the ledge. Once we do, we simply climb out of bounds, and it's a short glide to the finish. We just gotta be careful, because if we come in from the side and we have no rings, we'll die and have to do this all over again. Now, I could have just said that it was possible, but you know me, I just had to do it all over again just to make it official. White Jungle is next, and like Green Forest, this level isn't too tricky, we just have to avoid the vines that'll softlock us. These other type of vines, however, do work fine, so this level doesn't actually give us much trouble. There are a few parts where Shadow would have to roll under a wall, but we can just jump and glide around. There was one cool thing that we stumbled upon, however. There's a few floating platforms way above the level that normally you would never be able to get to. It's probably just something that the game developers were using and then left in like all the other stuff that we find out of bounds, but it's pretty cool to see. So we beat the level and move on to Skyrail, which yet again is another very vertical level that we can easily just glide over the entire thing. Unfortunately, there just isn't much to talk about here. It's a pretty straightforward glide. We didn't have to go out of bounds or anything crazy. We did discover, however, that digging does work on this level, unlike all the other speed levels that we played. It's probably because this level uses the textures and models from Pumpkin Hill, and that stage was intended for a treasure hunting character. So we beat Skyrail, and that is where Easy Street comes to an end, and we start running into some problems. The next boss fight is Eggman's Egg Golem, and like the other things intended for mech characters, Rouge cannot damage him in any way. And unlike Sonic's Egg Golem, he does not have the bomb on top of his head, so we cannot defeat him, making this the first part that is actually impossible. And if that wasn't bad enough, the very next level is Cosmic Wall, which is the most impossible level in the run. We can't even get past the first area. We can make it up to this first ledge with a spiral kick, but the next ledge after that is just too high. For some reason, Rouge does not get the low gravity effect that Eggman normally gets. Sonic was able to beat this level because we can super bounce to get high up, but Rouge has no such technique to do this. And if we use another mod to make the invisible death barriers visible, we can see that there is nowhere that we can glide to either. Because Eggman has low gravity in this level, the developers made sure that the death barrier stretched all the way over the level. So unfortunately, this level is very much impossible. Final Chase, however, is a different story. Just like Sonic's Final Rush, this level we can just easily glide over the entire thing to get to the finish. The gravity pipes do work, but they're pretty buggy with Rouge. They're also kind of buggy with Shadow, and he's the intended character, so really this is just kind of normal for this level. Luckily, we can glide past every single one of these, and we don't ever have to interact with them, which if you ask me, is an improvement. So we beat the level and move on to the final story. Cannon's Core is the final level, and just like last time, it presents a unique problem. Rouge can get to the end of the first room, but we cannot progress from here. In order to load the next section of the level, we need to destroy this door, which is impossible with Rouge as it's supposed to be done by a mech character. And unlike most other things, there's no loading zone that we can simply fly out of bounds into. The actual act of destroying the door is what triggers the next part of the level. So Cannon's Core is for sure impossible, however we can explore it a little bit more. We know for sure that Tails and Eggman's portions are going to be impossible since they both have doors that trigger the next part, and we know that Knuckles and Rouge's parts are possible because they're both treasure hunters. Some people might say that Knuckles' part might not be able to be done without the air necklace, but not only can it be done normally without the air necklace, but there's actually an out of bounds clip that we can perform to skip this entire part. So in either case, this would be possible with Rouge. So that leaves Sonic's part, and in order to get Rouge here, I actually had to use the randomizer mod, which does change the game's code to make certain things possible for other characters, but that's okay because we couldn't get to this part normally anyway, so the level is still impossible. I just wanted to see if we could beat Sonic's part if we could get here. The only roadblock for Rouge is not being able to roll under this wall, but we can simply get out of bounds back at the start and then fly around it. The water slide appears to work as Rouge, but again we are using the randomizer mod, so I'm unsure if this is normal behavior or if the randomizer mod is making this work. Either way, we could simply fly past the slide altogether, so I'm pretty confident in saying that this part is possible with Rouge, but without being able to get here legitimately without the randomizer mod, I can't exactly say for sure. And that brings us to the Bio Lizard boss fight, and this one was very difficult. Rouge obviously can't grind, and we can't climb the invisible wall, so we do need to find another way up to his weak spot. There are several spots where if we fly into him, we get bounced back, and we get just a small amount of height on that knockback. So we just gotta find that sweet spot that lets us bounce all the way up. Once we land the first hit, we luckily get knocked back high enough that we can continue to keep gliding into him until the final hit where he turns off the gravity. But we can luckily still glide during this part, so we were able to beat him. And that makes Rouge the new ultimate life form. The final boss, however, we have no way of loading in Rouge into this fight, even with the randomizer mod. So this one does need to be marked as impossible, but I didn't want to just end it on that because that's a little anticlimactic, so I decided to do something silly. This is Super Sonic in Rouge's outfit. And don't worry, Super Shadow can get in on this action too. This doesn't change anything, but now we get to end the challenge officially with this absolutely amazing victory screen. And that, gamers, is where the challenge comes to an end. To recap, we were able to beat everything except for Eggman's Egg Golem, Cosmic Wall, and Cannon's Core. Prison Lane, however, I still need to go back and complete it myself so I can officially count it for this challenge, But for now, another shout out to Axel Thunder for proving that it's possible. This run was so much fun and the stream was absolutely insane, so I really want to take a moment to thank everybody who tuned into the stream. I think at some point we had like 50 viewers, which was absolutely crazy, definitely way higher than I normally get on my streams. If anybody wants to watch the full stream themselves, there will be a link in the description, or you can go to the playlist tab on my channel to see all of my previous live streams. And I want to give another big thank you to Zaylin for all the gifted memberships, and I also want to thank Brandon Williams for the $10 super chat and Electro K9 for joining the membership club. I really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you so much for doing that. And so that wraps up today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you guys did enjoy it, I would really appreciate some likes and comments to help push it out to more people on YouTube. I'm really pushing to grow my channel so I can try to make content creating a full-time job, so I can make videos like this and do streams on a regular basis. So every like, comment, share, everything really just helps us inch closer to that goal. Again, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, stay epic, gamers.